So, hey guys, and welcome to my first interview. So, I think as some of you would have seen on social media, it's something I've always wanted to do. I really enjoy hosting things. I've done a lot in football. Recently in the lockdown, I've hosted some events for the Arsenal Supporters Trust. Was also co-hosting a podcast at work. And I always used to have my own podcast as well. So it's something I've always liked to do. But I mean, normally it's always sport related or social media related. And I just wanted to do something different. As most of you will remember, I along with others, together a charity gala last October. And it was really cool. I feel like I've built a bit of a brand. Let's make a difference. And it's just continuing it, really. So this is an idea I've come up with. It's a bit random, but I'll be kind of interviewing people that I know that are friends of mine that are in a wide range of careers, a couple of well-known people as well, who you may even know, and just talking about kind of their highs and lows, their career a little bit, their motivations and stuff like that. So it's not your life or anything like that. We'll leave that to other people. But hopefully this will just provide you with some alternative views and opinions and hopefully get you thinking. So I'd like to introduce my first, I've got some notes here, which is why I'm looking down. I'd like to introduce my first guest, who is, I met her about 4 years ago. So I turned up to London City Airport where I was on a contract, and she was there the first day. And it was just, I just turned up, sat there, and it was someone I met who was sitting to my right. I do remember she had a lot of shoes under the desk. She says it wasn't her, but I'm pretty sure it was. So I'd like to welcome Kimberley to the stage, so to speak. Kimberley also supported the charity gala as well by doing all the kind of design and the programs and the leaflets. So welcome, Kimberley. How are you?
Hello, I'm really good. Good introduction. Was it 4 years ago? Was it that long ago?
2016.
Oh
yeah.
Gosh. Oh, that's scary. That's gone very quickly.
Maybe 2017 actually.
No, I think you're right with 2016. I think that feels right.
No, it was 17.
Okay.
Definitely 17, yeah, because I was at H2 before that. It was 17.
Well, it feels like a long time ago, and it also feels like a month ago, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I think we've both done quite a lot in between the time between then and now, but I don't know, time goes faster and faster every week. It's quite scary.
It was a fun point of my life actually, because it was a short job, but I mean, we're obviously still good friends, and there's so many from the group that we're still in touch with, and we go out often, and it's weird. I was only there for 6 months. Yeah, I feel like that was a bigger part of my life than a lot of the other jobs that I've been at for longer.
Yeah, we were really lucky there because it was a really good place to work. I think in our roles in particular, we could have a lot of fun, but also the people around us were just brilliant. I don't know, I think every now and then in certain jobs, you get put into a team where everybody just clicks. And I literally mean everybody in that office were like really, really good friends. And it didn't feel like going to work a lot of the time. Just felt like almost going back to school, being in the classroom and just kind of doing what you need to do, but also having a laugh all day long. It was really good. It was great.
It was quite a commute for me. So trust me, it did feel like going a commute. But when we were there, I mean, the going up and down the apron for doing photography and taking pictures of planes and really topping up our tan, let's be honest, it was.
I feel like that's maybe all you done in your time there. I done a lot more.
I was there in the summer, which was great. So it just worked. So So Kim, I mean, how are you finding the lockdown and what have you been up to? And I guess how has it affected you from a personal level, not seeing people, but also from a professional level?
Yeah, so I think we were speaking just before this, and I was saying I have been at home now for 7 weeks, which is a little bit longer than from when lockdown actually started. So I work at the BBC, and a lot of people in my team had kind of naturally started to work from home because of, I guess, all the rumours and the sort of fear in people at the time. So it was quite a natural decision to just, right, I'm going to work from home for a few days. Not really expecting lockdown to seriously happen, and rightfully it did. 7 weeks later, obviously still here at home, I have to say, as I think many people have said of the situation, it's very, very up and down for me. Some days I wake up and I'm like, do you know what? This is fine. You know, I don't have to get up really early. I don't have to commute. I should be saving money because I'm not going to travel. And there are loads of benefits and positives you can find from the situation. However, in all honesty, sometimes I do wake up and think, this is really tough, really tough. Like not seeing friends and colleagues and just random people that you bump into and have chats with in the office. Because my office is very open plan. You meet people, you meet new people every day, you have conversations that you would never plan on having. I don't mean meetings, I mean just
just near the coffee machine or in the lifts or in the canteen.
Exactly, just going down to the canteen, chatting to the staff, and just I think for me that is the really difficult part, because I spend a lot of time on Zoom, in meetings, speaking to people and having professional conversations, but that chat is really, really missing. So that, for me, I found that quite difficult. I keep seeing obviously all these inspirational posts from people running and workouts and all of this stuff.
Thank you. I'm glad you're saying I'm inspirational.
Well, it seems that everybody is running, cycling, or lifting weights on their balconies and all sorts. I've tried to do a couple of runs. I mean, I used to run years ago. It's not gone well. It's not gone well.
Do you think people are doing it because it's their only bit of outdoor, they can go outside once a day and one exercise a day? Do you think they're just doing it because they just want to get out and it's...
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I also think another part of it is obviously the sort of competitive, the competitive part in people. There's loads of, you've obviously been a part of some of them, loads of I don't know what you call them really, like
challenges, I guess.
Challenges. So I done one of that was my first 5k I'd done in about 3 months. So just the fact that I actually managed to do it, to me, is an achievement.
It's good.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is like being egged on by other people, and if everybody in your WhatsApp group is saying I've done it, it's your turn, you feel a bit silly if you don't do it. So
a quick question about, I suppose, just before the lockdown, and you said like a week before the lockdown, people at your place of work started working from home and things like that, and obviously you're in the heart of London, just near Oxford Street, Broadcasting House. I mean, did you feel that fear going on the train from where you are, going on the tubes, lots of people? I mean, the fact that you're pretty close to Oxford Street, I mean, people are everywhere and were then. Did you feel that fear a little bit as well in that last week?
Yeah, I mean, I'm about 2-minute walk from Oxford Circus Station, which obviously extremely busy, so much so that on most evenings, anybody who works around there will know that they often close the station, they close certain exits and entrances because it is dangerously busy, even without something like coronavirus. Honestly though, I don't think I really took it that seriously in the first week or so. I thought, yeah, this sounds quite bad, but it just didn't really feel like it was going to escalate as much as it really did.
And as quickly as it probably has.
Yeah, as I said to you, my last memory of being in the office, and it feels like so long ago now. Yeah, it's been a while. My last memory is meeting somebody new who I was going to be working on a project with, and we just naturally just went to shake each other's hands, which you do in a workplace when you meet somebody new. And we did shake hands, and then instantly we were like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do that. And it was just such a strange
reach for your hand sanitizer straight away then.
Yeah, we actually got to a point where there were hand sanitizers on each desk.
Okay,
and I remember when they first came around, so there's on each desk, and then when you're in sort of open spaces like where the lifts are or where the stairs are, there'd be a hand sanitizer on the wall. And yeah, so they reacted really quickly. It was a great shout from them actually. But I remember at first it was kind of like people were making a bit of a joke of it, like, you're going to use the hand sanitizer, and then actually it became like, give me the hand sanitizer. I really do want to use it.
I mean, I when I was 18, I worked at Heathrow Airport. I took a gap year. I'm not even sure if you know this, but I did a gap year before kind of going to university. and I worked in security, so screening bags, x-raying people, or x-raying bags, but searching people and all that kind of stuff. And there was hand sanitizer there all the time because obviously you're touching people. So I've always been fairly used to it. I used it a lot there. It does absolutely make your hands dry, but I used to use it daily. So for me, it wasn't massively new. But yeah, certainly after this many years, adapting to it, carrying it in my bag, in my pocket, like, it was weird. Like the last week, I was like, phones, wallet, keys. Oh, hand sanitizer. It was just a really strange time.
Yeah, I was going to say, obviously, you know this, but before working where I work now, I was at the NHS for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Just in like an office-based job. And again, like we had hand sanitizer everywhere. You couldn't really walk around a hospital without using it. So it was, you know, I feel like it's something we should keep. Like, it's not a bad, yes, it does make your hands a bit dry, but we all have moisturizer and hand cream. I think it's a good thing to have. Like it's
yeah.
Just keep
I
it.
mean, hopefully, yeah, hygiene will improve after this, because we're hopefully not going to go back to just sort of being, you know, we're going to stay clean. I mean, a lot of us hopefully were clean anyway, but we're going to stay clean.
Well, it's debatable. I go on the tube every day.
Well, true. So, thinking about your career, I mean, we've mentioned we've got 3 places there: the NHS, BBC, London City Airport, and I know you were at Barclaycard before that. So they're really kind of big kind of companies. But I guess when you were sort of growing up and stuff, what did you ever think about a career in comms, or was it something you kind of just fell into? Because I mean, who wakes up at 10 years old and says, I want to be a comms person? Like, really that. Unless you did.
No, I honestly, if you would have said to me, even at 16 years old, would you like to work in communications? I would have probably had a very blank expression and not known what it was. Like I probably would have guessed that communications was something to do with sort of telecoms, or it wouldn't have been what I know it is today. I was always interested in media, so I took media in GCSE and for A level, and English.
What was it about the media? What sort of media? Like, what did you like? What does media mean to you at that age?
So media. So yeah, good question. So actually, media in school, media studies, I think it was called, was really about. You've done a bit about like film and sitcoms and kind of TV and different entertainment forms, but really the basis of it was like filming stuff and editing it. So we done things like music videos, and I think we done a news program. And we done like the opening sequence to a thriller movie. So it was very like creative and actually getting out there with a camera, which when I think back to it now and the sort of cameras we were using, it's embarrassing really.
Yeah, well, probably huge and bigger than you sort of thing, right?
So it was about getting out there, filming stuff, editing it. And I just found that really exciting actually. That was like my favourite part of being at school, because it was actually working on something that you plan on paper at the beginning and then you see it all the way through and you're involved in every single step. And I really, even in my career now, I really like to work on something that you can physically show someone and be like, this is what me or my team have created.
Like a charity gala program.
Well, maybe, yeah.
Would you say you were a good student at school, obviously? Would you say you were one of those who was maybe in the background, not particularly to be there? And
honest answer?
Yeah, honest, please.
Honest answer, I was terrible. And when I say terrible, I mean I really wasn't a good student at all. Like I got really good grades. It wasn't like academically I wasn't doing well. But I just didn't want to be there. I was very checked out, to be honest. I was in trouble a lot. And I don't know, I was a very moody teenager. I think in primary school, I was like the model student, really happy, like loved going to school every day. And then my teenage years hit and I don't know how they put up with me, my parents included in that list. Like, I don't know how they did. I was awful.
That's going to be my next question. I mean, how did your parents know that you were you didn't want to be there and you were a little bit naughty and stuff? How were they disappointed? Did they get it?
Yeah, one thing I always was extremely honest with my parents. So they knew exactly what I thought, which was sort of helped along by the fact that I used to get letters home from school a lot.
Okay, so they knew. They certainly knew.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a secret. Yeah, I was quite misbehaved in school, and I mean, now I look back and think, why was I like that? I mean, I don't know. I literally was a moody teenager, and I put it down to that.
Did you have issues at school? Did you have good friends? Did you have there must have been a fundamental reason why you didn't want to be there.
I had friends. I wasn't a loner. It wasn't so bad.
Nothing wrong with liking your own company, obviously.
I mean, I love my own company now, but no, I had a really solid group of friends. It was, I don't
it's
know.
One of those things.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those things. I just always wanted to be out there working. I felt like I could go and get a job now and earn money. I just felt like that was where I should be. And I felt like how many more years am I going to be in education for? I think for some people it works, and for me it just didn't. Maybe I was in the wrong school. I don't know.
Do you have any regrets from school, or like, do you wish you had maybe tried harder, or maybe, or actually not really?
Yeah. Well, I left school. Well, I finished my GCSEs, so up to the age of 16, I think.
Yeah.
And then that summer, I was determined to get a job. And I was like, I'm not going to sixth form. I'm not going to college. I'm going to get a job. Like, I'm going to prove to everyone I can do this. And I tried my utmost. And I had one interview, didn't get the job. And I was like, oh, what am I going to do now? So I did.
Where was it? Where was the interview? Do you remember?
It's for Deutsche Bank.
Okay.
I didn't get the interview. I can't remember why. Probably because I was rubbish. I didn't get the job even. I was probably rubbish in the interview. And I was like, right, I'm just going to go back to sixth form for a little while. So I did. Started my A-levels, and I'd done it for a year. And same feeling sort of set in. And I was like, no, it's not for me. I'm definitely going to go and get a job. So at that point, that is what I done.
Yeah. And so, okay, so you've kind of, and obviously it's important to say you obviously didn't go to university. Did most of your friends and stuff go to university? And did you feel a little bit like, oh, should I be going? Or did you kind of feel the one who was left out? Because everyone went on to do seemingly big things, but you potentially were left at home.
Yeah, I mean, a few people did. I think in my sort of friendship groups, I would say it's 50-50, really. Some people did, few people dropped out after 6 months, a year. And yeah, I never felt that sense of, oh, I should have done that. I never felt like it was a regret. I'm very much someone who kind of follows my heart, so to speak. So if I think this is for me, I'll just try it. And if it goes wrong, then I'll try something else. So yeah, I've never really looked back and thought, oh, I really should have stayed on at school, or it's never felt like a regret.
Yeah. Fair enough. Okay, so talking a little bit more about sort of your career and what you do. If I was to ask you, what is it do you do at work? Like not what day to day, but in general,
Sure.
What is your role and what does it actually mean?
Cool. So I think, as I said earlier, I work at the BBC. So I'm in the radio music department, and specifically I work in the BBC Sounds team. So BBC Sounds is our app for music, radio and podcasts. And my role is in internal comms. So that doesn't mean much to anybody who doesn't work in comms. People will often give you a look like, what do you actually do? So I guess a really, really basic way of putting it is we want certain messages to go out to teams within the BBC. So it's all about our staff. And my job is to sort of interpret those messages into different channels. So it could be into an event, into a newsletter, into an email from our managing director, or in other different ways. And it's about how we get people to sort of read those messages, buy into that, and kind of live by what we're trying to set out Sounds to do within the BBC. If that makes sense. It sounds a bit vague. There's loads of different things. So it's quite a creative role. So, for instance, my boss could say, right, we really want younger audiences within the BBC to know all about a certain podcast. So everybody aged 16 to 35, we want them to know about this podcast. And then I could come up with an idea. Okay, we're going to get the host of that podcast to come in and do a little Q&A with staff and tell them about their life and then I'll have 100 people in a room that will know all about that person. So it's coming up with different ideas, trying to do things a bit creatively, and get people around the business engaged in what we're trying to do.
And then I guess in that example, then your 100 people might tell another 100 people, and suddenly the BBC are,
Yeah.
I suppose as well. I mean,
yeah, exactly. Like obviously we do a lot of marketing, but really, if we can start those messages from within the organisation, word of mouth, as you said, is a really powerful tool. So we need our own people and our own staff believing in what we're doing and knowing what we're doing for those messages to get out there and be believable, really.
Okay, and well, what would you say is your biggest achievement to date? And it doesn't have to be at the BBC; it can be at any of your companies. But by that, I don't mean like a major campaign that landed well, or I don't mean, it's kind of digging a bit deeper. So for example, for me, mine was at sort of 22 years old. I was given a chance at Network Rail. And it was a new role, and I think people just thought he's probably the best of the worst. Let's just get him in and get on in that, because social media was just starting there. No one really knew what was going to happen. But then within kind of a year or two, I had a team. I was respected across the team. Everyone knew that actually this guy knows what he's doing, dealing with massive incidents across our network, and it was just the fact that people were telling me that you're doing a good job and we respect you. That for me, that's my biggest achievement, not getting a million impressions or engagement in social media. For me, just something like that was my biggest achievement. What's been yours, would you say?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because obviously you started saying not one of your biggest campaigns or anything like that, and sometimes it can be easy to go to the numbers and say we reached 1 million people, like you said, and that actually it's not always those things that mean the most to you. I'm going to talk about two things actually. So one of them was at the NHS. So I worked at King's College Hospital, as you know.
Yeah.
And when I first started in a similar role to what I'm in now, so internal communications, when I first started, I kind of came up with the idea of we should definitely have a staff magazine. We've got all these frontline workers who are not online, they're not on their computers all day, they need something physical. Yeah. And I was shot down straight away and was like, we don't have the money, we're never going to do this. Basically, forget about it, never going to happen. And I kept kind of digging away, like this would be really good and this would really work. And, I've done this in my last role and blah, blah, blah. And then eventually designing that first one and bringing it to print and actually receiving, sounds really sad, doesn't it? But when you get the knock on your office door and you get those physical prints of something that you've taken so long to create, that for me, the first one of that was probably my proudest moment. And I'm super sad. So anything that I've like published in a role, like I always keep a copy for myself, at least one copy.
Yeah, I think we all do that.
Yeah, I thought it was sad, but so on my desk out in the hallway, I have like all of the magazines I've worked on.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, that was a really, really proud moment.
I mean, just on that. I mean, we talk about that program you designed for the charity gala, right? And obviously, I'd written some of it. Other people had contributed. I had, yourself looking at copy. I had another mate looking at kind of copy just to make sure it's all written well. So actually, my contribution to that program wasn't huge. Yet when it came and I got that delivery, it was just like, wow! I have this. I project managed it essentially. I have put this together. Like it was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Lives. I know exactly what you mean by them.
Yeah. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier about when you're working on something where you see it from an initial idea in your head.
Yeah.
You think this could happen, this might never happen, but let's give it a go. And then planning it on paper and then actually designing it, getting something delivered something physical you can show to someone. We've made this. Such a good feeling. I love that.
Yeah. And what's your second example? You said
second example, completely different. Would go back to, as you said, when I used to work at Barclaycard. So I started there when I was about 19 or 20, I'd say, around that sort of age. And I started there as a personal assistant, which at the time, and I can so remember actually receiving the phone call to say I'd got the job after the interview. I was absolutely like so happy. I remember genuinely, pretty sad story, but I remember genuinely getting off the phone and like doing a little lap of my living room and being like, oh my God, I got the job, it's so good. Like it was an amazing feeling.
It's a proud moment, yeah.
Yeah, before that I was a receptionist. So going from receptionist to PA was like the next natural step, but it felt like a really big step up because it was joining obviously a huge organisation.
Yeah.
I never ever thought I'd get the job, and I did, and it was an amazing moment. And I'd done that for a couple of years, and then someone in the team I was working sort of next to was leaving, and I always sort of fancied her job. I thought that sounds really good. So she was a copywriter, so she was writing basically the words that went onto the website, and she also done like our staff newsletter, so kind of designing it, getting the stories, writing it all up, and sending it out. I thought, yeah, I really like the sound of that. I always look at a screen and think, oh, that looks cool. Like, what's she up to? And then I knew she was leaving. I think she was actually moving to Spain. And I was like, how can I get involved in that? So I had a little chat with her, and she was like, you could totally go for this job. And I was like, oh, I definitely can't. You know, I don't have any experience, and like, why they're not going to let me have a job as PA? Like, it means nothing to copywriting. And then and then I started. She was like, oh, I'm going to like show you what I do. So I wrote like one of the newsletters, before she had left, and obviously told my boss that, look what I've done. And then when the job eventually came up as a vacancy, went for it and got it. And if it wasn't for those conversations that I had with her, that would never have happened.
Yeah.
I need a little bit more of this. Give me a second.
That's fine. That's fine. It was your birthday a few days ago, so birthday obviously again, but you deserve it.
But what I was saying, if it wasn't for those conversations, I would never ever have applied for that job, because in my head I would have told myself, I have no skill for this, no experience. They will never ever allow me to even have an interview.
Are you still in touch with that person who gave you that advice?
No, I mean, she wasn't like a close friend or anything. We have each other on social, but yeah.
Because I mean, you know, it's potentially, when you look back, it's someone who made a huge difference in your life without maybe it at the time. It's something I wouldn't go as far as saying you owe them, but obviously you're grateful to them, right? Like, you know.
Yeah, I would say, actually, thinking back to that story now, it was her that kind of gave me a few tips, but also her manager, who used to work in the London office like once or twice a week. And I remember speaking to her, and when I started picking up some of this stuff for the newsletter, she gave me some like brilliant advice. And I'm still in touch with her, and she made a huge impression on me. And like, it's funny because when you move around to different companies, there are certain people that you remember that you learn so much from. And she would definitely be one of them. Like, that was my first sort of role in writing and sort of creative writing and engagement and stuff like that. So it was there are certain people that really you feel it when you're with them, and when they talk to you, and you're like, oh, I didn't know that, and like things stick in your mind. And it's funny now that in my work life I really, really appreciate stuff like that, whereas back in school, for whatever reason, I didn't.
Are you sort of, I guess, do you look back with pride, thinking that, you know, you didn't do well at school? I don't mean academically, but just for whatever reason it wasn't for you. You sort of left after GCSEs, you gave it a go again, didn't quite work out, didn't go to university, were, in your own words, just a PA. Before you said, you thought, why would I get the job? I was just a PA. But now you've worked for some, you know, huge organisations in a role that is really, really important. I mean, I saw firsthand how good you were, and certainly enjoyed working with you. But yeah, would you look back and think, you know what, I'm really proud of that, how I've done, because it wasn't easy at times.
Do you know, it's a funny question, because it's something you get asked in an interview a lot. Like, it sounds really, really forward, but a lot of the time when you get interviewed for different jobs, they will say, so how did you do this? You don't have a degree. You didn't even complete my A-levels. How did you do this? And it's a really awkward thing, because, I mean, it's just a very awkward question to answer. Like, are you proud of what you've done? Because it feels very big-headed almost, I guess. But I wouldn't say that it's like, oh, I'm really proud of what I've done, but I'm glad that I made the decisions I made because they were right for me. Like, they wouldn't have been right for everybody. And certainly if many people left school at 16, 17 when I did, maybe they would take a very different path. But I mean, I think sometimes luck comes into it, but a lot of the time it's about seeing opportunities. And for instance, the story I told before at Barclaycard, if I hadn't seen that opportunity, I would never have.
You might not be now.
Never have even considered doing that without having those conversations. So I think whatever workplace you're in, it's your internal network, i.e. the people you work with and that work in different departments around the organisation you're in, it's so vital that you actually make friends, have those conversations, get involved in projects that you wouldn't naturally be involved in. So sometimes it's just as easy as asking, oh, what are you working on? Oh, that sounds really interesting. Can I get involved? And sometimes those friendships, those projects, those conversations you have can absolutely change your future. And that's what I've seen happen to me.
That's what happened, yeah. So talks about highs. What's a big low? And it again, I don't mean a campaign that hasn't worked and stuff. I mean, you know, if I tell you mine, it was. I mean, you'll remember. Obviously, I left London City Airport and I went to work at another company. I'm not going to obviously name the company, but I went to work somewhere. I was quite happy about it. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but when I got the call to say I've got it, I think you were the first person I saw clearly sitting next to me, and I think you saw how happy I was with the smile and stuff. And sort of after a month there, I realised it wasn't for me, and it was a little bit weird because that had never happened to me before. And then I probably wasn't doing too well. I had a few sort of personal issues with kind of my granddad was in hospital at the time and looking like we were going to lose him, but we didn't in the end. But so it was a tough time, but it was a case of like I knew I wasn't doing well. They knew I wasn't doing well, and it was just like this isn't going to work. So I mean, obviously, ultimately, I left, but I mean, it wasn't really a left. I wouldn't have passed probation. I mean, in my eyes, I was sacked. Like it was, it took me a while to admit that, but I was, and I left without having a job and stuff like that. So I was pretty low then. I mean, it worked because I got, I'm at Thames Water and it's been good. But have you experienced a low like that where you really doubted yourself and thought, shit, am I doing the right thing here?
So I think what you've talked about there, it's really important to realize in everything in life, not just in work, but in everything that we do, not everything is going to be a success. Sometimes you start something thinking it's going to be great and it turns out a little bit rubbish. And actually, if things like that didn't happen, life, it wouldn't be normal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think all of us have done things and they've not really reached our expectations. So it's not a bad thing. I think one time that it wasn't a huge low, but maybe just a bit of a reality check and a bit of a time to think, what am I actually doing here? Was when I got made redundant. That was quite a
from Barclays, right?
Yeah, so that was from Barclaycard. So I was there for I think roughly 3.5, just under 4 years, something like that. And it just so happened the project that I ended up working on with about 150 people in the team. Everybody was made redundant. The project we were working on was going nowhere basically, and we were losing money, and it just wasn't feasible to carry on anymore. So everyone was made redundant, and at first, a lot of people found it really, really sad. And actually, I thought, well, this is okay. Like you get some time off of work and you get a payout, and it's not they're treating us quite well. It's not that bad. But then I remember I had about 6 months off of work and just thinking like, what about if I can't get another job? Like, what am I going to do here?
So to interrupt, did you have 6 months off because you couldn't find a job, or did you have 6 months off choice?
Yeah, no, 6 months off kind of set by the rules of the
Okay, fine.
Yeah, not by choice.
Yeah.
Although if I had that choice, I probably would have taken it. Yeah, but I remember at the beginning of the 6 months thinking, this is great. I've got 6 months off. I don't need to do anything. Like, this is amazing. And then 2-3 months passed. Well, yeah, this is still quite good. Got into the 4th or the 5th month. I thought, I haven't done anything. I haven't even updated my CV. Like, what about if I can't get a new job? And then the kind of panic set in. Of thinking, I need to pay my rent. I need to pay my bills. What am I actually going to do without a job? So that was, I wouldn't massively call it a low point, but just a bit of a wake up. Like, you need to get your gears. Do you know what I mean? You need to get into gear here and do something about this.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And what motivates you? What gets you out of bed every day? What why do you get out of bed every day? And then I guess, do you have days where sometimes you just don't want to get out of bed? Maybe, I don't know. But what motivates you?
I've just had a week off of work. I had some annual leave that I needed to take, and let me tell you, I have not got out of bed that much. But generally, normal working week, I think for me, what gets me out of bed is I have an amazing team. it's not that we're all really, really close and we're best friends. It's not like
Yeah.
like when we worked at City Airport, for instance, it was very much like that. Not the same as that at all, but there's so many people in my team that I really admire, and like we'll sit in meetings together. Like we have our team meeting every day on a Tuesday, and I just actually really love listening to people and learning from them. So now, in complete contrast to when I was a child in school and a teenager, I just love learning from people and hearing what they're up to and hearing the different things. And I think obviously a huge advantage of working somewhere like where I do now is all of their output I get to see or hear on TV, on radio, online, on websites, whatever, and social. I get to see all the things that we're talking about. So they'll be saying, oh, we're working on this new podcast and we're talking to this person. And then a couple of months pass and you actually see it's been published, it's been broadcast, people are talking about it on social. And for me, that's really exciting to be like, yeah, I didn't make it, but I was in that room and had those conversations. Yeah, like you're part of the picture behind the scenes. And for me, that's a real driver.
Yeah. And do you have bad days when actually you don't want to do any of that? And actually, not the week off type things, but just days when you think, don't really want to do this.
Absolutely. I think
not work related to such, but you know, whatever.
I think if anybody said they don't have bad days where they don't really want to go to work, I mean, I wouldn't believe them, would you?
No, probably not.
I think everybody.
And I mean, how did you? Yeah, how have you dealt with them? I guess. What do you?
Yeah, I think everyone has bad days. Sometimes you can work on something and you put your heart and soul into it, and somebody doesn't like it, or somebody completely changes it. In the sort of work that I do, that can happen loads. So you can sometimes spend a whole day, say, writing something, for somebody to review it and be like, no, I've rewritten it. And when you first start in a role like mine, you'll find that so harsh, and you'll be like, I've really, really put everything into this. I thought it was really good. You know, I thought there might be a couple of errors or something, but you wouldn't expect somebody to rewrite it. But I think things like that can be a bit of a hit, and you think, oh, I'm rubbish at my job, and you really doubt yourself. But actually, like, it just comes with what you do. Do you find that in your?
That was going to be my next question. You said. No, I was going to say that you kind of said you doubt yourself. How do you get over that? How do you stop doubting yourself?
Yeah, I think for me, there are a few different things actually. So sometimes when things go wrong, I think it's really important to just step away from what you're doing for a minute, reevaluate how meaningful it actually is. Because as much as we try to separate kind of work and emotion, sometimes you are emotionally attached to something you've worked on. You really care about it, and you think you know everything, and you've really put your heart and soul into it. So sometimes just stepping away, go and have a tea or a coffee or whatever, and just thinking like, what do I actually need to do here to get to the end result that I'm trying to achieve? Sometimes I think that's the best thing to do. Also, another thing I found is just having really, really honest conversations with the people that you work with. So that can be friends you work with, or it can be your boss, your manager, whatever. I found that quite recently in an event that I had worked for months and months put together. And I just felt like it's not my line manager, but sort of the MD of my area, I just felt like he wasn't very happy with it. I mean, we know each other fairly well. I've worked with him for about 8 months now. And I just got this overwhelming feeling that he really was disappointed in the whole day. And it really kind of bugged me. And I thought, he hasn't said anything. Why hasn't he said anything? Like, do you know what? I'm just going to go and ask, because it kind of goes back to that saying, like, if you don't ask, you don't get. So if I don't ask for the feedback, I might not get it in this situation. And if I don't get the feedback, I'm never going to be able to improve. So I put in like a one-to-one in his diary, and I just outright said, like, I feel like you're not very happy with how the event went, so I'd really love to know like what you think. And just had a really honest conversation with him, and he said like what he was really happy with, what he thinks could have gone better. And now I know for the next time what to do. So
did you question if it was the right thing to do to actually ask that question? Did you think actually I'll just leave it, or you wanted to do it?
No, so funnily enough, I said to someone who's quite a close friend at work, I said to her before, like, do you know what? I'm just going to ask him because I know,
Mm.
I know he's not happy. I'm just going to ask him, like, what's the worst that can happen? And she was like, oh, are you sure? It's like, yeah, like, why, you just like, I'm
In
allowed
fact,
to.
that sounds like you. It sounds totally like you. So
Yeah, no, but in life and in work, I think most of the time, pretty much all the time, the best thing to do is just have a conversation and be honest about it, right?
yeah,
Like the worst, very, very worst that could have happened in that situation is he said to me, I didn't think it was very good. You should have done better. That's the
uh,
very worst that could have happened. And I
yeah.
was like,
It's a good way of
okay,
looking at it.
bit harsh, but I'll get over it. That didn't happen. We had a really long conversation about everything that happened in that day and what we want to do the next time. He was really encouraging and really supportive. I always think an honest conversation is the best thing.
Yeah, I agree, and I think not just at work, but in relationships, friends, family. I think it probably always is.
Yeah.
What's the dream now? You're what, 28 this week. You,
Yeah.
you've worked for some big companies and stuff like that. But I mean, what's the dream? You're still got your whole career in front of you. Unfortunately, for you having to go to work every day. But what's the dream?
Oh, the short-term dream. The short-term dream is to get out of lockdown.
Well,
Um,
yeah, getting out of lockdown helps.
yeah, and you know what? It sounds really sad, but I cannot wait to get back to the office. I
Yeah,
absolutely like physically, like the office is just a really nice environment to be in, and just all the people there I genuinely miss so much. So I can't wait to go back to work.
yeah,
Long term, it's a really difficult question because I've never really known what I wanted to do. I think long term, as long as I stay within a creative role where I can sort of come up with new ideas, try new things out, I'll be happy. So long term,
yeah.
it's very open ended sort of for me.
What are you the type of person that, I don't know, wants to win an award in your industry, wants to see something on a magazine go global or national?
I mean, one of my campaigns did win an award last year, but
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
well, there you go.
Yeah, I mean that stuff is nice. It's a nice boost and it gets you some recognition. That is good, but I don't know. I'm as long as day to day I'm more happy than I am unhappy in a role, then it's all good for me, to be honest.
Fair enough. And what's one tip you would give someone who's, I think, I'm going to ask this question to everyone, but I think I'm going to pick a moment in their life, right? So the moment I'm picking in your life is you've done school, you've left after GCSEs, you've gone back to A levels, haven't liked it, haven't never liked school. For me, that was your moment, right? You could have gone either way. You could have gone left or you could have gone right. What's your one tip for someone at that moment? So someone potentially in the same shoes as you, hasn't done well at school, doesn't really like it, had a bit of trouble, doesn't really know what to do, university's out the question. What would be your one tip?
It's a great question, actually. And
Thank you.
it's hard to single it down to one point, but I would say, and it sounds super cheesy, but I believe in it. Always believe in yourself. Like it's very easy to have imposter syndrome and think, oh, I can't do that. Why shouldn't be doing this? I'm not good enough. Forget that. Like if you want to do something, 100% you can achieve it. It's not good. Things don't happen overnight all the time, but just put your heart and soul into things and you can make them happen 100%.
That's a nice answer, I guess, and that's, I think, a lovely way to end as well. So, Kimberley, thank you for first being my first person and being a little bit of a guinea pig to make sure it works. But I really do, I think, respect your honesty, respect your answers, and yeah, I guess I probably never said this, but I respect your career. Working next to you for 6 months, it was like, yeah, she does the magazine or something like that. Like, you know what I mean? But I think it shows that you made a difference everywhere you've worked. And I think actually looking over your shoulder, I can see the leaving gift.
Oh, yeah, this one.
That was given to you. And it was because the staff magazine at London City Airport was Kimberley. It was, everyone knew it was Kimberley who designed it, Kimberley who wrote it, Kimberly who got the pictures. It was your magazine. So that was kind of your legacy, I guess, at London City. And I'm sure you've left legacies everywhere you've worked. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for being the first. And stay safe, I guess. Stay safe, stay home. I mean, hopefully we won't be in this forever. We'll be back as a group, meeting up and doing what we do, which is often long nights out. We will be there soon. So thank you.
Wicked. Thank you for having me, and stay safe.